known for her much-loved hit TV show Our Yorkshire Farm. With an authentic portrayal of the highs and lows of farming, it's no wonder her success continues to grow and her fans have fallen in love with her, Clive and the 9 children. We had the opportunity to join her at Ravenseat to talk about her latest series, new book and all things farming.
You're on your farm and your home as well, it's lovely.
A bit of a trek for you though.
No, but a nice change of scenery work.
Definitely. So yeah, really the start is Our Yorkshire Farm is in its 5th season now.
Oh, well, you tell me.
Yeah,
That's
congratulations.
I don't even know these stats. I'm terrible.
Honestly, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So congrats on the success.
Thank you.
Especially with filming the latest series by yourself, with the kids. How did you find that?
Well, it was a challenge, certainly, but in a way, it was one of those challenges. It was like, well, you know what, this is an opportunity to showcase what you actually do. Instead of talking about it, actually show people. Because I know, in this day and age, there are a lot of people who can sort of like talk the talk, but to actually be able to put it out on screen, to show it to people at home, it felt like you were sort of validating what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but it was like, okay, you say, oh my God, it's like living on a hill end where you've got your own microclimate, it's cold, it's icy, it's snowy, this is how it is. And you put a picture up, but that picture's kind of static, it's that moment. So to be able to take the cameras and sort of pan around and get people to get a real feel for it.
And I think the children actually, it looked like they just took to it and they're taking selfies, but actually they're as involved in the farm, kind of, particularly we're in half term now, but they're as involved in the farm as kind of you and Clive are as well.
Absolutely, they're a massive, massive part of it. I mean, it's a family-run farm at the end of the day. So when it came to filming, it was really obvious that having a zillion different directions to go and a million different things to do, it made absolute sense to sort of hand over that control to children. And I thought that was good. It was a challenge. Everyone was talking about how are you homeschooling during lockdown. Well, in a way, that is homeschooling because they are sort of doing their thing, but also putting a message out there. How much better than that does it get?
Yeah, exactly. And the whole series is heartwarming, but it is gritty and realistic. And I think all viewers would accept that. You don't bubble wrap everything. So do you feel like it was really important to stay true to kind of a proper day in the life?
Massively. That is actually the real, I suppose, for us, the real focal point. That's the bottom line. Because the minute you sort of start sexing things up, then you've lost what it's about.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here to sort of slag off Countryfile or anything like that. It's massively, enormously popular. But I feel like our programme, it's watched by 2 distinct sort of types of people, those that know and those that don't. And if you can keep both those people watching a programme, then you're doing something right.
Definitely.
Because the people are getting a realistic view of what's going on the farm, but also the people who know that life know that you aren't tidying it up. It's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Things die. You hear how the kids speak. I know for a fact, because I've seen conversations going on social media where people have said, oh, I can see that this is proper, this is right, because the kids say tits.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid little things like that.
Yeah. But it's not faked.
It's absolutely. And I mean, in a way, I'm sure there's been a lot of talk about Clarkson's farm, but that's the same thing. It doesn't really matter how a message is put out there. If you put a message out there through humour, you don't have to be standing on a soapbox. There's nothing like seeing someone standing on a soapbox, waggling a finger to make you switch off, turn over. Not interested, and sort of to kind of feel like you're being shouted at. Whereas a programme like this, a bit like the Clarkson programme, is getting a message out there, but it's just doing it in a different format. People are watching it, their questions are being answered, they're seeing they're seeing the backdrop, they're seeing what's going on. It's starting up a conversation without preaching.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we both said as soon as we came into your home was, oh my gosh, it's we've met your kids, we've met Clive, and just speaking to them, it's like just watching it on the TV. It's so real and down to earth, and it's not put on.
No.
And I think that's so relatable for people.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. People will come in here and they'll be like, you can see, it's not perfection, it's real. If you came into here and everything was just so and very minimalist and there wasn't an itchy dog laid behind us and wallpaper hanging off and all the rest, but it's real. And that's why I think people enjoy it and like the programme. And in a way, I suppose it is putting a message out there, but without saying it.
Yeah.
And isn't that the best way for people to subconsciously sort of take that on board? Look at the seasons, look what's going on. That's the best way to learn, really.
Well, speaking of the seasons, you've got your new book out.
I have.
Which is really exciting. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've got a lot going on, right? Always got a lot going on. So I do kind of need people to be sort of cracking the whip and saying, come on, Amanda, you've got deadlines to meet, all the rest of it. And the idea for this book has been sort of rumbling on for many years. Because I do presentations and I go out and talk, people would look at the images that I would put up in a presentation that would play out behind me, and also the pictures that I would use on social media, and I would always say the same thing. Oh, you should do a book of your images, photographic images, all the rest of it. Anyway, I kind of sort of sidelined it, and then literally got the opportunity to do it, and they said, do you want to have a go at that? And I was like, yeah, okay. The other question that people were always saying was, oh, you've got a big family, you've got a lot going on, how do you cater for them? Yeah. And it was like, okay, let's chuck a bit of that in too. So it's kind of, it's very much true to us and what we do here. It literally follows the seasons. It's very gentle. It's got sort of tales about what's going on the farm. Mm-hmm. So again, it's another one of those things. It's dressed up as lifestyle, right? But a little bit of me kind of withers inside when anyone says lifestyle book, because I would never, ever think to myself it was something that I particularly needed in my life. But it isn't that. It's a book that charts what's going on seasonally on the farm, in the countryside. It's also got the images, some of which I took, some of which the children took. And it's got a few recipes and stuff chucked in as well. And then it's got a huge, humongous, great disclaimer, which says basically, if you don't want to follow any of these things, good, because I do it my own way.
The recipe side is a really interesting thing to talk about. Eating locally, eating sustainably and in season. And it's probably something that we all need to look to do. We're probably lucky enough that it's very natural to eat in season food, but it's something with not a lot of thought the public can do. You don't have to know about farming to eat locally or go to a farm shop or look, or where's that come from. And it's
look at the labels.
Exactly.
It is really important. I know at the moment there's a lot of talk going on regarding sort of the COP conference and the environment, sustainability, all the rest of it, and of course veganism, all the rest of it. And people are always kind of wanting a farmer to sort of like, you know, put their hands on their hips and say, you know, start a war. And I'm kind of more conscious of the fact that you should be aware of what you're eating.
Yeah.
I am not at war with anybody. The only person I would have a problem with is somebody saying, welfare-wise, you're not treating your animals right. That I have an issue with, because that is untrue.
Yeah.
And I don't like that being cited as being the reason why you wouldn't eat meat. If you don't want to eat meat, fine. We eat meat. We eat a small amount of meat, usually what we produce ourselves. So it's local provenance. We know where it's come from, everything about it. And if people could look to that and where their meal is coming from, it would help enormously. But it's a really difficult message to get across, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, for me as well, as part of a big family, I also have to look at basically what the cost is. And there's a cost to everything you put on your plate. Yeah. That could be an environmental cost, or it could be just literally how much money you've had to spend.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of about how to feed a lot of people, feed them well, feed them on good stuff, without it costing a fortune.
Exactly.
So what's your favourite recipe then that you've got?
I'm going to say tagine, because I like tagine, because it basically, if anyone says stew, a bit of me dies inside. But pretty much it's a Moroccan stew, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just using sort of basic ingredients. It's a one pot. It's very forgiving. Anything with me that I cook, I'm doing fish pie tonight actually, but anything that I cook has to be incredibly forgiving, because I tend to get distracted. So anything that says, could go in the oven for an hour, but it won't kill it if it's in for 2 hours. That kind of, exactly. Anything that you can chuck together, it smells nice and brings the kids come back to the kitchen because they can smell it in the farmyard. And also anything that basically I can open the lid, put it on the table, and that'll do.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to try them.
Yeah, tagine. And there's this sort of like idea that, you know, maybe you're not sort of into a more modern slant on cookery, but it's nice to be able to throw a few herbs and spices.
Yeah.
Clive says he hates garlic. I hate garlic, he says. I hate garlic. Apart from when I put it in the pan and cook something with it, it'll say, something smells good. So I just don't say that it's garlic.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So that's kind of and also recipe-wise, I also kind of like the kind of thing that I can say, kids, do you want to do that? Do you want? Because they love making bread.
Yeah.
They put it there to put in front of the fire, and the dog steps in it, and there's a paw print in it. But hey, it's fine.
It's how it is.
Yeah, exactly. So anything that they can get involved in as well.
That's amazing.
So
The book obviously might hopefully have an educational element. People might learn something from it. Do you see, obviously your social media incorporates the photos as well, and did you set out to educate people with your social media, or was it something, I know people like Instagram to kind of store your memories, you can scroll back and think, look what I was doing a year ago.
Yeah.
Did you think it was ever going to take off the way it has and almost bridge
you
a
never
gap?
do. You never do. I wouldn't have ever called myself something stupid like Amanda 08 if I'd ever thought it was going to take off, would you? You know, and you give yourself a stupid handle and you're like, why did I call myself that? It was 2012 when I first set off on Twitter, and then I morphed over onto Instagram. I think it was 2019. But really, it was just kind of like a photo diary. Guess what? I ain't got time to write a diary.
Yeah.
But I would take my camera with me wherever I went. So I'd take pictures. The kids would take pictures. And I would post them up, and it all kind of, that's where it all began. So there was no element of, hey, you know, this is going to be some sort of way of teaching people. It was kind of a thing whereby people could look and ask the question anonymously if they like, because in a way, it reminded me of 25, oh my God, that makes me feel so old. 25 years ago, when I was a person asking the questions, no social media, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it sounds so old, doesn't it? But you either looked at a book or you went and asked somebody. And it requires a certain amount of nerve to go and ask that stupid question that is probably obvious.
Yeah, well, this is something that we couldn't relate to more with the asking questions, because how often, Becca, I've got this question, you're going to think I'm stupid, and then it's something related with the farm. Well, it's okay for me, the farm's natural, you know. I mean, we talk about like silage. Why are those bales wrapped in plastic, for example? Yeah. For me, that's second nature. For a lot of people,
they don't know.
And you have to, as you say, you have to be bold to ask it. But you learn
it shouldn't feel like a stupid question.
Well, no, the fact that someone's interested, the fact that someone's interested is the beginning. Now, if you think to yourself of everything that we've managed to do so far with the books and the TV programme, that all came from questions.
Yeah.
That all came from the really simple start of making cups of tea for people who are walking through. So there's all these walkers coming through, and they stop and have a cup of tea, and of course they want to talk, and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? Tell us about the environment. Tell us what are those lines across the moor. Tell us about the birds. So you'd just go, well, this, and then you'd go and repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's where it all began.
Yeah.
It was those questions. And you see, the thing is, because me and Clive aren't from farming stock, we'd have to ask those questions as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people would come and say, are there different sorts of sheep? And you could go, you idiot. Or you can go, yeah, of course there is. And this is why, native breeds. You know, people will say, your sheep have got tails. Why have other sheep not got tails? And you say, well, ours live here. That tail's really important for keeping the weather out. But if you're somewhere where it's fly strike and tree cover, then it's better that you dock them because you'll get all kinds of things.
And there's something to be said for farmers being transparent. There's a lot of instances where the industry as a whole, agriculture, seems closed.
Yeah.
And actually, just speaking to a walker, as opposed to thinking, well, you've got your dog off a lead or you're walking off the footpath, what we should actually maybe be doing as farmers is approaching those people. Oh, do you realise the reasoning behind why we want your dog on a lead? Or, you know, interacting with them.
Absolutely.
And being open.
That's a far better way to be, rather than sort of confrontation.
Yeah.
I have people come through, and I can honestly say that 99.9% of people are no bother and no issue. And if there is an issue, it's usually because they don't know, rather than a blatant kind of sort of two fingers up at you, the farmer. I had someone with a spaniel who was in the big breers, and it was the beginning of June, and the spaniel was off the lead, and there was no livestock in the field. But what that person did not know, because I saw them go through the gate and I saw them let the spaniel off the lead, what they didn't realise was that as that spaniel was bouncing through the grass, yes, it was flattening the grass, but it was also killing the ground nesting bird chicks.
Yes. Yeah. And disturbing the birds.
But you know what? If I go back 25 years, I didn't know birds laid their eggs on ground.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Now, and you're like, well, And for me now, it's like obvious. My kids know that ground nesting birds are a thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. I thought they needed a tree.
Yeah.
And that's just life, isn't it? We all know things about the things we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have to learn other stuff.
Yeah, and it's how you can get that message across, but in a sort of gentle manner without sort of finger waggling.
Yeah.
And also anything that makes you question yourself as well.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about, teaching your children these lessons.
Yeah.
And, educating them on the farm. Do you think then that the media sometimes bypasses what you can really learn out and about on farm, not just
Definitely.
academically?
Massively. That's a massive, massive issue.
Yeah.
Take Reuben. I mean, Reuben's out there at the moment. He's putting in a farm track. Reuben and Raven couldn't be any more different. Raven's 20. She's going into her third year. She's that's the thing that does it for her. She wants to go into something medicine-wise. She's doing biomedicine at the moment, but she's looking at doing an extra year to actually go into something more hands-on, hospital-based. Anyway, wait and see that. But that's her. That's her character. That's what she wants to be. Reuben is the exact opposite. There's not an academic bone in his body. He's not a bad scholar, but he's not inspired but what is he? Incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent. He can do stuff that I can't even think about. He can dismantle engines, he can make things work, he can buy, sell stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at this very moment in time, we keep reading these stupid headlines whereby there's people going, oh my God, we haven't got any HGV drivers, we haven't got any butchers, we haven't got anyone to work in abattoirs. And unfortunately, they call those low-skilled jobs.
Yeah.
And that really boils my piss. I'm sorry, but it really does.
Yeah.
Because actually, they are highly skilled jobs.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried butchering anything? Have you ever tried butchering anything? I've tried butchering something. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Until you see a master butcher at work, I mean, honestly, it was a nightmare. There was bone splinters, there was bits. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
We
I
should be
think-
encouraging them.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And obviously your programme and Clarkson's Farm, which we've already mentioned, hopefully have an element to them which shows being a farmer isn't just standing in a field and looking at your sheep, bent on a gate.
Oh my
There's
God.
so much to it, as you say, Reuben. The engineering side to that, there's masses of people who are into engineering but wouldn't think I could go into agricultural engineering.
Oh, it's
for example.
multifaceted.
Exactly.
It covers so many bases. It's like saying with farming is a very broad church. It can cover anything from a tiny hill farm with just a handful of cows to an enormous sort of poultry unit with like a God knows how many chickens. It's all that. I mean, from what we're doing, we can see there's a real big uptake, and there's a load of kids, a load of young people out there who are desperate to get on the farming ladder. And I'll say, the bottom line, no matter what people say, no matter what the current sort of political climate is, we all need to eat. That is a great leveler.
Yeah.
Whatever you're eating, whether it be a grain, whether it be meat, whatever it is, we need to fuel our bodies.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we need youngsters coming at the other end. We need to look at problem solving. We need to look about how we can fit and how we can be what people want us to be. Because at the moment, I don't think we even know. I think that's half a problem. You've got people saying you're not productive enough. And then at the other end of the scale, you've got people saying, well, actually, we don't particularly want you to be productive. We want you to look at a more holistic view. And you're like, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you actually want?
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's not clear. So how can you possibly follow a prescription that is so vague?
Contradictory. Definitely.
Absolutely. So with regards to the kids, I'd encourage them all to go into farming, but I'd encourage them to do a bit of this and a bit of that. The ridiculous part is when you say that you can make more money talking about sheep and taking pictures of them than actually doing it.
Yeah.
That's ironic. The fact that we can go out there and shear sheep and be busy and absolutely sweat like you wouldn't believe and then make more money serving cups of tea for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really bad.
scary.
And it makes me feel bad because I feel like it emasculates what Clive might be doing. I'll be like going, oh God, I'm going to do a 40-minute talk on sheep.
Yeah.
And what? He's doing some kind of...
You're not missing me in any way.
No. Well, your ear's burning. Yeah, it does feel quite bad. I sometimes feel like it's quite. I feel guilty for the fact that things have gone the way they have.
Yeah. And farming's a primary industry. We can't do without it, but sometimes it feels like it's not appreciated maybe by, I don't know, decision-making bodies,
Nope.
etc., because the public actually have a very high view of British farmers and they trust them.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it though, does it?
No.
It doesn't feel like it at the moment because, like anything, you'll always find a rotten apple, and it's always that rotten apple that sort of clouds people's
It's often
people's
the minority,
judgment.
isn't it?
Oh,
Which
absolutely.
has the loudest voice sometimes.
Exactly. Well, that's the same with everything. So, and I mean, as an industry, it can be quite an isolating industry at the best of times. You know, you spend 24/7 doing what you're doing in all weathers and all the rest of it, and when all that you're getting all the time is hearing negativity, it's an easy thing to close in on yourself. Which in a way is kind of self-perpetuating in the spiral of them and us.
Yeah, definitely.
So there are so many issues that need tackling, and I feel like at the moment we're just kind of riding it out and sort of seeing which way the wind blows.
Well,
I have no idea what's going. I have no idea. All I know is that there is an enormous onus placed upon farmers to do the right thing. To do the right thing, we are, spoken of as being guardians of the land. And it's a real source of frustration that we should do that. And in a way, I suppose not be rewarded for that. And I'm not talking about sort of being... What can I say? I don't expect for 1 minute there to ever be a point when somebody comes down the road and puts money in a box just to come and enjoy the view. But we're working that view. People don't realise that. They look, and how many times do you see the sort of rolling hills of Swaledale on the front page of a magazine, dry stone walls and all the barns and everything, and people will come out for a walk, come and enjoy the countryside, and then go home and sort of complain that there's no trees here.
And
whatever.
they're very detached from actually the reason it's like this because it's farmed. If it wasn't farmed, you wouldn't be able to come and walk and enjoy it as it is because it would be completely taken over. You wouldn't.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a sad detachment that we don't quite get the link between what farming does as a aside to just producing food. Farming creates the environment we have.
Absolutely.
And the landscape.
And I mean, I've been, this last month or so, I've been out and about because I've been doing the theatre tour. So I've been all over the country and I have seen some amazing sights. And when you think of how diverse our little country really is, so from, going to areas where you've got the woodland and the coastal areas and then the moorlands. And it's kind of like there's this sort of idea that we're looking for some ubiquitous kind of, utopia that everything just fits and is right. People come in and say, oh, there's no trees. We want trees. Trees are the answer to everything. Trees are amazing. And I'm like, well, you know what? There's ground nesting birds, there's curlews, there's lapwings, there's black grouse, all the rest of it. And they need moorland. That is what they need. We're in the process of doing the regeneration of the moorland, trying to block up those grips that were put in after the war, all the rest of it, trying to make it wetter to hold carbon. If they are in good condition, they are better than trees. A tree in the wrong place is actually not that good. Exactly. It's like sort of saying, all right, if you go on safari in Africa, complaining that you don't see a polar bear, it's exactly the same thing. There are certain places for certain things.
And there's a balance which it's not a one size fits all. We can't we can't pay everybody to plant a load of trees. Because then we lose diversity in one area and you're not.
Well, isn't that the problem? That is the problem because of course in this day and age everything comes down to a form or a graph, and unfortunately until we can kind of get the people who are sort of in government, in office, to actually come out, put their wellies on, put their boots on, and actually come out and see. I don't think you need a whole lot of form filling for someone to come here, see what's in front of them and say, well, this could improve and this could do with staying the same and this could be, it can't fit a graph. It doesn't matter how many equations you put in it, whether it's livestock units or whether it's permanent ineligible features, or, oh God, it drives people mad.
Definitely.
And I think, I guess then Farmers Weekly have currently taken on the Boots and Heels podcast, and that's something that Becca and I have definitely tried to show, is that it doesn't matter what background you come from. You know, Becca's from a farming background, I'm not. We're both so passionate about the industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to kind of bridge that gap. Do you
Well,
think...
we're stereotyped, aren't we?
Yeah. Do you think podcasts, you know, like Boots and Heels, are really bridging that gap for the public?
Yeah, they want to.
Yeah.
I haven't, I mean, I don't know if you saw what I did in the Times yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
I haven't read the comments because I know for a start exactly what will happen.
Yeah.
And that's it's always the same sort of thread throughout
You
comments.
can't wear makeup and be a farmer.
You can't wear earrings.
You can't.
How many things have I done to validate? And that's exactly, and should I have to do that? Probably not, but there you go. You know, if you're a doctor, do you have to wander around wearing a stethoscope at all times and sort of relate to people what you do and how you do it and sort of say, honestly, I can prove it. You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I feel that is a big issue. That you know, the number of shoots I'm asked to go on, and people say, well, can you bring your sheepdog? Can you bring your crook? I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I think one of the best ones was walking the sheep across London Bridge about a month ago, whatever it was.
I saw this, yeah.
And I had the crook in my hand, and they'd asked me to bring the crook, and I was wearing wool because I decided that obviously, because there was quite a lot of sort of pomp and pageantry, that I should be wearing wool. So I got my wool skirt on, and I was carrying the crook. And of course, the photographers were putting too much pressure on the mules that were being walked across the bridge. And I kept saying, can you get them to stand back a bit? And of course, they were moving forward. And of course, the sheep, turned. And one of them, you know, you get that one and it does the old 3 bounces and you know what's going to happen. And it's coming back towards, and I've got the crook in my hand. And it's like coming back towards us and the mare and everyone's standing there. And I got it with my crook.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there with my legs splayed with this mule between my legs on the bridge with the skirt on, holding that. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, I love Mary Berry, but she did it last year. But could she have done that? No. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. People want you to have the crook. They want you to have the wellies. They want you to have the sheepdog at your side because it fits.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
And it honestly is like.
It's like, why can't you wear lipstick? Why can't you wear heels?
You can do it. It doesn't mean anything.
Job, why, you know, you don't need to
That's
be
where.
pigeonholed.
No, exactly. It doesn't matter. I mean, if I'm shearing sheep, I will wear trousers because you can't do it without, because that's obviously practical. But you know, I used to put, long before the programme, I would put pictures up of me and Clive shearing away, and I would see a comment and it'd be like, yeah, that is so set up, you know.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that a mother of 9 can shear sheep? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And just that comment, it did my head in so much that I was asked to go and do a shearing demo bank holiday weekend. And I went and did a shearing demo for nothing, sheared sheep all bloody bank holiday weekend, just to make sure and hope and pray that somebody would take a picture and put it up on social media.
To show that you actually could do it.
Yeah.
You always feel...
And that I shouldn't have to do it, but... Clive said, why are you doing that on bank holiday weekend? Because obviously we're not clipping at all, and it was the May bank holiday, but I'd gone down to Barnsley to do that. And it was purely because of that.
Yeah. You're on the back foot, and it's always... you've got to go that one step further than... dare I say it, a man, you have to go one step further than a man or somebody else in the profession to look like you can do it, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, but you also kind of don't want to become one of those feminist kind of woo, because then that kind of goes against you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's quite a difficult one. I mean, I go and do talks. So I did last weekend. I was at Cheltenham. So there's Joan Collins here with like security guards and all the rest of it, and she's like, "Oh my God, guys, I'm only standing for an hour." I'm sitting there in my dress with gravy down the front and I can't find my pen. And that's me. And the people at Cheltenham in that queue, there's not much in the way of farmers, right? But to the day, was it Tenbury? Agricultural Society. It's all farmers.
Yep.
And I love the challenge that it can be that or it can be that. Because they can sniff out a bullshit at 1,000 paces, right? I said to Clive, I've got my worst one coming. I said, this is the worst one. I am so nervous. And it was to go to Skipton and talk to 50 farmers in the back bar of a pub on outskirts of Skipton. 50 farmers, hill farmers. I was like, oh my God. So I went and did it. And you know what they're like? They play the cards quite close to the chest, one right, sure. About 3 days later, the worst fan mail letter I've ever got came. It was like on a, you know, one of those envelopes where they've crossed it out and used it again.
Oh no.
And it was off one of them guys who said he'd never been to a presentation or a talk, and he'd loved it so much because he knew it and he recognised it, and
Yeah.
and that for me, same at Hay on Wye. Did Hay on Wye. Didn't realise it was such an honour to be invited to go to Hay on Wye Literary Festival, because I'm not the kind of person you'd naturally find there. The organiser said, your tickets have all sold out. He said, but the best thing is the people who never come to the festival. He said, it's the Welsh hill farmers. He said they love the festival because they get people camping and they park the cars and the B&Bs are all full, but they never come because there's nothing for them.
And you change that.
Exactly. Well, isn't that something? So it's like keeping true to your roots. It's really, it's a real temptation to sort of sell out to somebody who wants you to sort of preach their message.
Yeah.
But I haven't really got one. We're just doing what we do, and we champion what we do because you do what you think is right.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you've really highlighted on tour. I saw you down in London, and I absolutely loved that. And obviously you've just been to my hometown in Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Not tried a Parmo though.
No, I missed that one, didn't I? I've never heard of that.
You need to. You need to. A signature dish, I will take you. But something that you did mention on tour, which I found quite interesting, was sometimes the criticism you can get for health and safety, and all these kind of trolls and people, you know, jumping on that, you know, to do with the children or you on the farm. I mean, how do you find that? How do you find resilience? How do you respond?
I don't.
You know?
I just carry on and do my thing. You spend your whole life questioning yourself. It would be very unnatural if you weren't somebody who didn't sort of lay in bed and think to themselves, am I doing the right thing? Is that okay? All the rest of it. But it's kind of, again, it's getting the balance right.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it is really difficult to do your own thing and feel like you can do that without people sort of judging you. Without people judging you. I put a picture of the children climbing up a barn. 99.9% of people go, yeah, that's great. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. 0.1% will say, where's the climbing harness? Where's the helmet? Okay? But what they don't know is mentally, I have done a risk assessment of what's going on. And yes, there is a possibility. Life is dangerous. It is inherently dangerous. It doesn't make you safer by staying away from danger.
Children need to understand risks, and if they haven't tested it in an environment where you're watching them climb up, or you've told them you need to be careful of X, Y and Z, the problem that you get is children, young adults, whoever, who have never been exposed to any risk or any decision making. These children, maybe depending on what age, will, again, in their head, they'll probably be thinking, right, should I walk through that really boggy bit or not? Will I get stuck? Will I fall off if I climb over that wall? And I think we don't give children enough opportunity.
No, to find their own parameters, exactly, to find that level. All the things that people say that they want, the benefits of the countryside, the outdoors and fresh air, we know. We've had 18 months of lockdown. We're privileged to be here and to have all this space around us. So for us, we're really fortunate. But for other people, other families, other kids, they haven't had that. So to have people saying, oh yeah, you need to get your kids outside, we need to get them climbing trees, we need to get them swimming, we need to get them doing things, we kind of have to introduce the idea that there is risk. Saying you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, but miraculously when you're an adult, all of a sudden you can, doesn't make it safer.
Exactly.
You know, you can very easily get to 16, 17, 18-year-old and not have an ounce of common sense or a clue. It doesn't make you safer. It's about gently introducing the idea of what could happen and what if.
And so talking about children, young people and everything, farming does seem to be, and we've kind of mentioned it, the press paints it in pretty dire straits at the moment. Why do you think young people should get involved in farming? What is there for them? And do you think that the media kind of misrepresent what farming could and should be? You know, there's a lot more to it than we're shown, and for young people
of course,
as well.
There's a lot of misrepresentation. Absolutely, it doesn't make the headlines, does it? The headlines aren't made by somebody doing a great job and doing it well. The headlines aren't made by, look at this, isn't it amazing? What we need to, the headlines are made by some something terrible, something negative. That's the story. So, like I said, we go back again to the fact that people always need food on the plate, and there is this new sort of emphasis on the environment. We're not kind of, I believe that there is a balance that could be struck, and it's finding that balance, and it can't be done it can't be dictated through an office. It kind of needs people out on the ground and looking and seeing what's in front of them, because as we've talked about before, this little country is so diverse in what it can offer. You come here and it's all about grazing livestock, it's all about sheep. You will go somewhere else to more productive land and it will naturally be better suited to crop production. It's just really, really difficult to not sort of it isn't a level playing field.
Yeah.
And do you think, I mean, the farming press often, you'd kind of say, is preaching to the converted. It gives us a headline about what's happening in government or schemes or trade deals. But do you think there needs to be more of a gap bridged between what farming press shows as a fairly honest picture to then, you know, your everyday press, where the headlines and the articles maybe aren't quite so realistic? Like there's potentially
which hasn't got the same emotive kind of pull, has it? There's not that great amount of interest. I think people get a little bored of it.
Yeah.
A little bored of it. I believe that the programmes that are going out on the television have kind of certainly tapped into what the general public, that there is that interest and they do want to see. So like the Clarkson's Farm and our programme. And this Farming Life, you see, I'm terrible because I haven't watched Clarkson's Farm and I haven't watched this Farming Life, so I have to go on what Clive says because he watches them, you see. but yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know what the answer is, because if there was a clear-cut answer, then we would have it, and we would know it.
Yeah. So what's the future for you then, Amanda? What's the future plans for you?
Do you know what? Future plans for me is kind of like this afternoon and tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. After that, we'll just wait and see. I have no clue.
No.
I have no clue, but all I know is that we're really proud of what we do here. And that sense of pride is kind of what keeps you on the right road. You will have bad days whereby, you know, you will read something and be like, oh, can't you? And it's really hard sometimes to steel yourself against negativity.
Yeah.
It is. But other days, I mean, this morning I got a letter, I've just opened it in my bag, that was handed yesterday from somebody who, that programme, it's really, well, I wouldn't say it's changed their life, but it's given them something.
Yeah.
You don't realise. And a lot of people, if you're born to the countryside, you don't realise, and I feel like I'm really fortunate with me and Clive because we've come from somewhere else.
You still appreciate it, and you know how looking you hold.
Absolutely. And I think that's we need, you know, it's all right farmers talking to other farmers and sort of slapping them on the back and sort of congratulating on where they're going right. That don't pay the bills.
Yeah.
That doesn't pay the bills. It's the person who's heading into the supermarket. It's the person who's going to the restaurant. It's the person who's going to the farm shop or not going to the farm shop. It's the person who's going to the bloody food bank.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what is that? I mean, I cannot stand and say food needs to be more expensive.
When there's still...
Yeah, when I know for a fact that there are people reliant on food banks. It's a social issue as well. so
there's so much at play to solve. It's massive. It's massive.
It is absolutely massive.
But our final question, which we do ask everybody.
Oh my God.
Here
we go. I'm stealing myself for this one, right? Okay.
I think we might already know the answer considering your comment on your footwear from last night on the tour. But are you team boots or team heels?
We're going for heels.
Yeah. Oh, Amanda, you are the best.
We're going for heels. A number of times I have fallen over on stage. I actually bought a dress from TK Maxx that said he had a fall. I was like, don't look to be anything wrong with that, till I got on stage and my arse was hanging out because the zip gave. Yeah, okay. So we've had that. I've taken my shoes off on stage because they've been killing me. Oh, you name it. But I just like to, in a way, if you go right back to the very beginning and me going, hey, I want to be a shepherd, that was kind of the first sort of turn around in sort of ruffling a few feathers and sort of rebellion. And in a stupid kind of a way, I feel kind of like I'm doing a little bit of that now.
Yeah.
That person who you see on that screen behind me with 2 hats on and the drip on the end of my nose, like, and the soggy coat and the hands that are dropping off in the back. And then that is the same person that is standing in front of them, not looking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can do it all.
And that's the point.
This is the thing.
And that's the point. That's what I want to say, because you don't want to. It's too narrow. You're cutting out a whole section of the community. We need to stick together as farmers. There's such a lot of bitching and backbiting amongst us. Never mind anybody else.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today,
Thank
man.
you.
It's been amazing to speak with you. And
Thank you.
congratulations again on your successful tour, your series.
Don't sit
and
there and
new
think.
book.
I don't sit there and think, oh my god, I'm so successful. Because the next minute I'll go out there and I know there's like stuff going wrong,
No,
left,
but
right, and centre. You're like,
You should give yourself credit. It's amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
this is.